War never changes. Nope, I can't do it. Hello and welcome to the RPG Blender, where we give lesser played games and forgotten settings the roll the dice they deserve. I'm your host, Game Master George, and today we will be taking a look at the QuickStart guide to the Fallout RPG. We will go through the rules as outlined in the QuickStart and take a look at the included adventure to see how well they introduce this streamlined version of the game. Spoiler, they kinda missed the streamlined part. Anyway, go ahead and click that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's leave the vault. This game uses the 2d20 system, a roll under success counting system. When it comes time to make a roll, the GM determines the appropriate attribute and skill. Add up the two values and you have your target number to roll under. The GM will then assign a difficulty. This is the number of successes you will need in order to pass the check. Example difficulties run from 0 to 5, and a difficulty higher than 5 would be nearly impossible to hit without assistance. Normally, you will roll 2d20. However, once the difficulty is set, you have the opportunity to spend AP, action points, to buy extra dice for the roll. You can buy up to 3 extra dice for a total of 5d20 for the roll. Once you have your dice, you roll and count how many show values equal to or less than the target number. Each die that does counts as 1 success. Any die that shows a 1 instead counts as 2 successes. However, each 20 adds a complication to the result. If your number of successes equals or beats the set difficulty, you succeed. Any excess successes over the required number are converted to AP for the group. In the event of a failure, the GM may offer a qualified success, a success at the cost of a set number of complications. The GM will present the number of complications, and the players decide if they want to take the deal. Complications are additions to a scene which make things more difficult to resolve. Things like a gun jamming, breaking a lockpick, or increasing the difficulty of a future test. If no specific complication seems appropriate, the GM can instead gain 1 AP for his future use. In the event a task is more risky, the range can also be expanded, causing complications on more than just a 20. At times, an event may be opposed by another player or NPC. In such a situation, the difficulty system is replaced by an opposed roll. The character opposing your action rolls first, and their number of successes becomes the difficulty of your roll. AP is generated in favor of whomever wins the challenge, either the opposition gaining AP to the amount that you failed by, or you gaining AP equal to the amount you beat their roll by. If 2 players oppose each other, they may not use group AP to purchase dice. Instead, they buy dice by allowing the GM to add that many AP to their own pool. All right, let me just take a moment here out of my normal rules only mode to suggest that players should also not gain AP based on how much they succeed when opposing another player. It isn't stated explicitly here, but it seems the appropriate manner of handling it. It also removes the option for your group to AP farm on themselves. Now, sometimes your players may wish to assist each other. When they do, they make a test like normal, with just 2 changes. First, the assistant will roll only 1d20 instead of 2. Second, the assistant may not purchase any extra dice. Any successes they roll on their 1 die are then added to the pool of successes. Finally, a group test behaves similarly to assisting. One member is the leader and rolls as normal. The rest each roll 1d20 and are unable to buy extra dice. If the leader rolls at least 1 success, then all the group members' successes are able to count toward the total. And of course, everyone potentially generates complications. Okay, so we've talked about AP a few times now, but how exactly do they work? Action points can be used for 6 effects, 3 general, and 3 for combat. First, you may buy extra d20s for a roll, as previously mentioned. The first die costs 1 AP, the second costs 2 AP, and the third costs 3 AP. No more than 3 extra d20s can ever be rolled, whether they are gained from this or from a perk or trait. Second, you may spend 1 AP to gain information. When used, you can ask the GM a single question about the current situation related to the test you made. This follows Genie rules, of course. The answer must be true, but not necessarily complete. or helpful. Third, you may spend 2 AP to lower the time required to complete a task. Obviously, this only matters if time is important to the situation. On using this effect, the time required for the test is halved. Within combat, the extra actions are pretty straightforward. You can spend 1 AP to take an extra minor action, 2 AP to take an extra major action, or gain up to 3 extra damage dice at the cost of 1 AP per die. The players share their AP as a group pool, which can only store up to 6 AP. The GM has his own pool, which has no such limit. The GM pool begins with 1 per player. Players can then generate AP for the GM by buying D20s when they do not have sufficient AP in their pool. Each D20 you buy in this way gives the GM 1 AP. The other expendable resource for the players is luck. Each character will have a luck attribute. They will begin each session with luck points equal to their luck. These luck points can be spent on 4 effects. First, you may spend a luck point to introduce some helpful detail or fact to a scene. The GM may veto the suggestion or demand a higher amount of luck points for the benefit, but you could use this to find the right ammo, locate a key, or a computer password. Second, you may spend a luck point to use luck for a roll instead of whatever the normal attribute would be. Third, you may spend a luck point to choose to go early in a combat round. You may not interrupt another character's action, and it counts as your normal turn for the round, but it allows you to take an earlier turn if needed. Finally, you may spend a number of luck points to re-roll dice. Each point of luck spent allows you to re-roll 1d20 or up to 3 combat dice. Each specific die can only be re-rolled once, and you must accept the new result. Once spent, luck is gone. It will only be reset at the start of the next session, or at a GM-determined milestone event. When refreshed, you refill up to full luck no matter how many points you have spent. You can never have more luck points than your luck attribute. Combat begins when someone chooses to initiate it. This person takes 1 immediate combat turn. From there, each combatant is listed in their initiative order and takes turns in that progression. Initiative is equal to perception plus agility plus any perk or equipment bonus you might have. On their turn, a character may take 1 minor and 1 major action. They can purchase an extra minor and major action with AP, but they never take more than 2 of each. A minor action includes things like aiming, interacting with something simple, or movement. Meanwhile, a major action is your standard attack action, issuing a command to an ally, and sprinting, among other more involved tasks. When it is time to attack, you begin by choosing your weapon and your target. If you like, you may also pick a location on them to hit, such as torso, head, or left arm, but doing so will increase the difficulty by 1. You will then attempt a test appropriate to the weapon you choose. Each type of weapon uses a different combination of attribute and skill, modified by its ideal range, so make sure you note your specific weapon's rolls somewhere. If you remember your roll and hit, and did not choose your hit location, you roll a d20, or their custom hit location die, to determine what part of the target you hit. There is no special effect, generally speaking, for just hitting a specific body part, but different areas may be armored differently. At long last, once you have determined your hit location, you roll damage. Roll a number of combat dice, d6s, or more custom dice, and calculate the damage done. More on the combat dice now. So the combat die can either be a custom d6 sold by Modiphius, or you can use the combat result chart with a normal d6. A roll of 1 does 1 damage, 2 does 2, 3 and 4 do nothing, while 5 and 6 deal 1 damage and a special effect. Now, as mentioned earlier, you can use AP to increase the damage dealt. However, for ranged weapons, you can also spend extra ammunition for extra combat dice. You can spend extra ammo or 1 extra die per ammo spent, up to your weapon's fire rate. When you deal damage, it will be one of 4 types: physical, energy, radiation, or poison. Targets have separate resistances to each of these damage types. If you trigger a damage effect, all of the special properties of your weapon are triggered. These are things like Burst, which hits nearby targets, Piercing, which ignores some damage resistance, or Vicious, which hurts extra bad. Should you take radiation damage, it behaves slightly differently. Instead of reducing your current HP by the damage dealt, it reduces your maximum HP. Obviously, if this reduces the max HP below the current HP, the current is reduced as well. In the event that 5 or more damage is dealt with a single hit, the target suffers a critical hit. This gives them an injury based on the hit location. See, it wasn't a completely needless complexity. These effects last until medical attention is received, and when you hit 0 HP, you begin dying. You fall prone and suffer an injury to the location struck. At the start of each turn, you must make an endurance plus survival test against a difficulty of the number of injuries you have. Pass and you remain dying. Fail and you dead. Any damage dealt to a dying creature immediately gives an injury. Okay, so that's a lot. For a quick start, that is a hugely dense set of rules. And truth is, there are a lot of smaller ones which I didn't include here. This part of the video is meant to be an overview, not a complete tutorial, which is something that typically applies to quick start rules themselves as well. But here, it feels like they've included, well, almost everything. For our purposes, however, we don't need to know the specifics of mist or rad storms. So let's get past this and talk about the adventure. The adventure opens with the party meeting Scribe Galen Portnow on his way to investigate a distress signal from a downed vertibird, a job which he will attempt to recruit the party for in his stead, as wilderness survival is not his forte. While ostensibly a social encounter, most of the challenges are actually mental ones, based on information he freely shares. Presumably, the party agrees to help. But should they not, we get the option of the classic Fallout consequence of finding Galen's dead body later. Side quest still available from his corpse. Along the road, there is an optional scene at the Cullen Gap. The characters must cross a deep gap using a far too small bridge, leading them to an abandoned lot of cars and a sadly deceased looter's shack. There is some minor loot here and the opportunity for a small combat, but nothing terribly impactful if you decide to drop it for time. Finally, the characters will arrive at Baraday Gulch, the site of the crash. This is the site of the first major combat of the adventure, where the players can take on 3 Protectron units. The units are currently assaulting the lone survivor of the crash, Knight Helen Layton. Interestingly, it is mentioned that there are Eyebot scouts to be avoided, and even reference to them participating in the combat, but there are no statistics for the Eyebot unit, nor even a quantity assigned to them. After successfully fighting back the robots, the PCs have an opportunity to loot the vertibird for some moderate loot. Interesting that the Brotherhood Knight on the scene is not noted to object to this looting, at which point Galen will send out a broadcast indicating a strange signal coming from the nearby town of Bleakford. Someone controlling robots. Act 2 is the exploration of the town of Bleakford, a ghost town now overrun by ghouls. The players will need to locate the source of the signal within the town while dealing with the ghouls. Though they may certainly be able to beeline straight for the signal booster, they can also take some time to explore this town for some loot and a few minor to potentially challenging combats. When they eventually locate and disable the signal booster, Galen will message in again to let them know that whomever is controlling the bots has needed to boost their signal, letting him track it right to their doorstep. He gives them the coordinates to their new destination, Joint Base Lewistown. Here we arrive at the climactic showdown. Joint Base Lewistown was the site of pre-war robotics research, which has since been taken up by Institute scientist Trestridge. She now seeks to use the technology here to implant her brain inside an experimental self-healing Assaultron unit, which she will do if the PCs are not fast enough to interrupt her, rendering herself effectively immortal. On arrival, the PCs will be greeted by 2 Brotherhood Knights in a firefight with the robots of Dr. Trestridge. How many robots? What kinds? It does not say. The implication is that the force is meant to be overwhelming, too many to be handled straight, so the goal should be to either sneak in or to clear a large enough gap for the party to make their way inside. If the players are fast enough to make their way inside before the surgery is complete, they have the opportunity to stop it by either hacking the terminal controlling the process or destroying either the machine or the doctor's brain. Failing to do so reveals that her plan was only partially successful. The party must now face her as she lashes out in confusion within her new robotic body. Defeating her robotic form concludes the adventure, with players possibly having an opportunity to loot the potentially well-stocked pre-war base. The adventure is nothing too out there, though the final reveal of the mastermind has potential for a very cool moment. It follows a pretty standard structure of points of interest, which isn't a bad thing. You want a QuickStart adventure to be simple. However, there are things missing from this, which cause some issue. First is, of course, what I've noted before, missing statistics for the iBot, as well as its numbers. Then later, the lack of defining the actual force of the robot army results in a bit of a messy climactic fight scene. But the more problematic is the loot. See, the adventure lists loot by saying you find X number of items in a certain category, but this QuickStart contains no item list. So it is great to say that you can find some armor or a weapon, but without a list of either weapons or armor, there's no way to actually give them to your players. This is an interesting issue to have when, honestly, the rules section of the game is a bit too expansive in what it chooses to include. This is a quick start book, meant to be something you can pick up, read through with some ease, and have a one-night intro to the system. Here, we unfortunately have an info dump, which honestly feels like it's just ripped from the main book. The only thing missing seems to be character creation and a list of gear. But without having the book myself, I can't say that's the truth. So if anybody wants to compare the QuickStart to their copy of the full book, let me know if it's word for word exact. What I can say is that if you are a fan of the Fallout universe, this game, as viewed through the QuickStart, does an admirable job of translating the recent games into tabletop form. I do wish some more effort had been put into paring down the information included in the QuickStart to something more manageable for an impromptu game night, and that some of the oversights in the adventure could be fixed, but it's overall a passable experience. Anyway, that about wraps this up. If you're interested in the game, the QuickStart PDF is available for free at the link in the description. It's an affiliate link, but the product is free, so use it or don't. We have all those things, or we can beg you for money, but in truth, if you like what we're doing and want to help us grow, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. We're getting so close to our first 1,000 subscribers, and it would be a joy to hit that before the year is out. Anyway, thank you for watching, and remember, there's gaming outside the Forgotten Realms.